What's going on? Oh, jeez. My mic is low. My mic is low. One sec. Let me bring that up. There we go. That's better. What's going on, everybody? What's happening? It is Wednesday, March the 26th, 2025, 2:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave Mcrae, coming to you live from the Voice Man Studios in Toronto, Canada. This is episode 322 of Mcrae Live. We have some Crystal Lake news. We have movement, ladies and gentlemen. There is a pulse. There is a heartbeat. There are twitches. There are convulsions. It's alive. It's alive. The Crystal Lake television series, Friday the 13th, Peacock. Cock-P. What? Shut up. What does it mean? We have some Crystal Lake news. We have some casting. We know who Pamela Voorhees is going to be. But I want Jason. Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down. I know you want Jason. I want Jason. Well, you're not going to get him. Ever. You're never going to get him. It's going to be a 9-season, 243 episode Pamela Voorhees backstory. What do you think of that? What do you think of that? No, it's not really going to be that. Calm down. Relax. I am a huge proponent of Pamela Voorhees and the Pamela Voorhees story and the Pamela Voorhees character. I've made my case on a number of shows here on the channel. I will probably reiterate a little bit of that today. But exciting news in the world of Friday the 13th fans. If you are a fan of Friday the 13th and you've been waiting for this Crystal Lake series to get off the ground, we have some exciting news. Well, depending on who you are. So what is that exciting news? Well, the exciting news is this. Let's go over to the other screen. Here, oh, hang on a sec here. For some reason, there we go. I don't know what happened there. The exciting news is this. This comes to us from Bloody Disgusting, but it's also in Variety and Deadline and the major trades. Linda Cardellini, is that how you say her name? Linda Cardellini. Hey, where did my... I had myself on screen here, but I don't know where I went. Maybe I need to... where did I go? That's kind of weird. Anyway, not a big deal. You can still hear me, and that's all that matters. Linda Cardellini, officially to star as Pamela Voorhees in Crystal Lake series from A24. Ladies and gentlemen, there she is. Now, I have to say that... Let me see if I can get myself back on screen here. I don't quite know what happened to me. There I am. There we go. That's a little better. I have to admit, I recognize the actress. In some photos I've seen of her, she kind of looks a little bit like before Elliot Page was, or before Ellen Page became Elliot Page. If you look at photos of Ellen Page back in the Juno days and things like that, Inception, some of the photos I've seen of her, she kind of looks like an older Ellen Page. In some of the photos I've seen. I do recognize her, but I have to admit I'm not that familiar with her work. I'm sure some of the things they're saying that she's been in, I just haven't watched. So, if you grew up in the early 2000s, obviously she was in those Scooby-Doo live action movies. I never saw them. I didn't care to see them. I just didn't appeal to me really at all. Nonetheless, here she is, Linda Cardellini, I believe is her name, and she is Emmy nominated or Emmy winning, I believe. She's a good actress, by all accounts, from what I've been able to see. And, not that she has to look like Betsy Palmer necessarily, but if you look at her and then you look at an older Betsy Palmer, they have the same sort of features, which would be, there are people, and this can happen with men and women as well, right? There are people that have more bolder features, right? More stronger jaws, more bolder. And then there are men and women that might have what we, be described as cuter features, smaller features, right? More rounded features, a smaller nose, rounder cheeks, things like that. And in casting, that can become a big thing when you're looking to cast a character, depending on what the vision is for the character. If the studio has to say, we need you to use this person, But a lot of writers obviously have, actors in mind and things like that. So, when you look at Linda Cardellini, I believe that's how you say your last name, she has more of those rounder, cuter type features that Betsy Palmer had. And so that I would imagine that was part of what you wanted to kind of have consistent. So there's a bit of that. Yeah, I could believe this is the same woman 30 years prior, or something like that. Anyway, but I'm not too familiar with her, to be honest with you. Nonetheless, where are my glasses? In the other room. After early reports that Peacock's Friday the 13th prequel series, Crystal Lake from A24, may have found its Mrs. Voorhees last month, it's now official. Linda Cardellini, The Curse of La Llorona, Scooby-Doo, has officially signed on to star. Deadline reports today. The series version of Pamela Voorhees is believed, see that right there? I highlighted that so I wouldn't forget. Believed to be a mother who had given up a singing career, to raise a special needs child and takes a dark turn when she loses her son. We'll talk about that in a moment. Betsy Palmer played Mrs. Voorhees in the original film, revealed to be the killer behind the camp counselor's slayings in retaliation for the drowning of her son, Jason, because he wasn't a very good swimmer. Can you imagine that's how she said it? Brad Kane, welcome to Derry, is the showrunner for Crystal Lake. In addition to Kane, executive producers on the series include A24's Victor Miller, who wrote the screenplay for the franchise's original 1980 film. Miller's copyright attorney, Mark Toberoff, Robert M. Barsman, these people. The project will mark A24's first major IP-driven project and a recent effort to expand in a more commercial direction. That is sort of the big Friday the 13th news. Good night, everybody. See you next week. No. So let's talk about this. Linda, what is it again? Linda Cardellini. I think I'm saying that right. Again, I'm not overly familiar with her work. I do recognize her. And I do like the look. Like if I'm just basing it on looks, which is really all I can go on at the moment, for me, I'm like, yeah, I could totally believe that that's the same person. This idea so here's kind of the lay of the land for me, because we haven't talked about Friday the 13th in a while, right? I do believe, and I had a big, what was it? Last summer or whatever it was, when Brad Fuller exited the project. He was originally the showrunner. He exited the project. I am a huge proponent or I am okay with elevating Friday the 13th and bringing it into the 21st century while still keeping the DNA there and the DNA alive. And I've said many times on this channel that, look, there's a lot of people that just say, how hard is it to make a Friday the 13th movie? You just stick, kids at a camp, blood, gore, tits, boobs, whatever. I think I called it boobs, blood, and murder or something like that. And if this was 1985, I'd agree with you. But it's not 1985. It's 40 years later. It's 2025. those types of movies, those types of premises do not have long shelf lives today. That doesn't mean that you couldn't do that and be successful, but if you want Jason to be around longer than he was in 2009, you gotta elevate. And when we mean by elevate, we don't mean in a pretentious, condescending sort of way. We just mean adding more meat to the bone. So there's something more than just tits, teens, and blood. That's what I used to say, tits, teens, and blood. That's what it was. So there's more to it than just that. That's really important in 2024 because it's not, in 2025, it's not 1980, right? And you know, that kind of thing, you know, girls showing, I mean, you know, it's kind of, I mean, people do it. Sydney Sweeney. I'm just saying that, you know what I mean? 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 And so, you know, there needs to be more meat on the bone. And I do not mean that you need to elevate it because elevate has the you know, it's got a bad word, right? Oh, you're so pretentious. No, it just means that there's more meat on the bone and there's more stuff going on. It's more interesting. There's more character development. Maybe you're going to be able to care about these characters, right? If you just want Jason around for one movie and he's back and then go do the formula from 1982. Go do it. And yes, it'll make a lot of money, because everybody's excited for it to be back, right? But you're not going to have longevity in that. Not today. And they know that. And you know who else knew that? Brian Fuller knew that. Because I was preaching and I was on there saying this. Even Vincent DeSanti from Womp Stomp Films was saying the same thing. We were all saying this before Brian Fuller had pulled out of the project. And then it wasn't long after this that Brian Fuller had pulled out of the project. He left the project for whatever. There was a number of reasons why it could have been. But in his statement, in his parting statement, he even said that he was going to elevate it. He was going to do that. He was going to keep the DNA there. He was going to give you all the Friday the 13th things you like, but he was going to elevate it. There was going to be more meat on the bone. They were going to do this and do that. They got to go back. Because you're making a series, man. You're making a series. And so I understood that. And Pamela Voorhees, you don't care. Like so many Friday the 13th fans say, I don't care about Pamela Voorhees because you haven't been given the opportunity to care about her. That's the problem, right? She was Betsy Palmer in Friday the 13th, and the vast majority of Friday the 13th fans don't even like Friday the 13th anyway. I really like Friday the 13th, but that's never at the top of anybody's list. It's always like, oh, you know, it's like 6th or 7th, you know, and I get it. Jason's not in it, you know, I get it. Oh, it's the mother. Okay, fine. But, you know, and then you see not Betsy Palmer, but you see Pamela in the remake at the beginning, and you see her, like, I mean, you've seen her played by a few other people for like 5 minutes. There really isn't a lot to go on here. She's not a developed, well-established character in the sense, I mean, she's an iconic character because of what she represents. She's the mother of Jason, and she kicked things off. But there's so much more to explore with this character. Right? You may not care about her right now. I don't want this fucking mother. I just want Jason. Okay, well, if that's all you want, and Jason just running around in teens, tits, and blood, well, then have at it, have fun with it, and you'll be right back here going, where the fuck is it? Because it's not gonna. I mean, even the Friday the 13th movie in 2009 had one of the biggest drops off of all time in its second weekend. Right? It was something like 80%. It was ridiculous. There's a reason why they didn't make another one, ladies and gentlemen, okay? There's a reason, all right? And because even that movie, even the 2009 remake had they tried to do a little, yes, they had your young, hot, you know, guys and girls and boobs and, you know, whatever, but they actually added hey, there's this guy who's searching for his missing sister, and like they had this B plot that was going on, and then they converged, and you know, I mean, even then they knew, well, we can't just do this, like we got to have some. And now it's 16 years later, and there's got to be more of that. Right? That doesn't mean being pretentious. It doesn't mean being condescending. It doesn't mean elevating it to massively cerebral territories where we have like a combination of The Shining versus Hereditary versus, you know, some sort of, you know, Silence of the... It doesn't mean that. It just means that we can't, because what is it going to be? Like, it's not even going to be a season. If it's just teens, tits, and blood, well, you're going to get like, 2 episodes out of that? I mean, like, you know, they want to build something. If you want 4 or 5 seasons, there's got to be meat there, folks. There's got to be meat. There's got to be, arcs and journeys and things that are happening and discoveries and all that kind of stuff. So I've always been a huge fan of exploring more of the Pamela Voorhees story, right? And some of you might say, well, how come you're not a fan of doing that with Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers? And well, that is because the Jason Voorhees character is not built on the foundation of anonymity. He is not built on the foundation of ambiguity, right? We know Jason's backstory. He was, a special needs kid. I forget what I forget there's the name for them, but for him, the way he looks, I forget now. But anyway, he's that, right? And we know that he drowned in Crystal Lake. We know that the reason why he comes back is to avenge his mother's death. We know that he supposedly saw his mother beheaded on the beach, right? You know what I mean? We know all of this. We know that Pamela Voorhees was a cook at the kitchen at the camp, and she, the 2 kids were having sex, and she was like, oh my God, and she took revenge and she killed the 2 kids because the 2 kids were not paying attention to, to Jason in the lake, and that's why she comes back and she feels that she needs to kill, and we know all of this. It's like Freddy Krueger, right? We know Freddy Krueger's history. That doesn't mean that there isn't mystique and you don't want a mystique to the character. Of course you do, but the backstory is not a mystery. Right? The Michael Myers, the who, what, where, when, and why, the 5 W's of Michael Myers is a complete mystery. And that's got to remain a mystery because he's built on that. He's built on that foundation. Jason's not built on that, right? He's not built on that. You can discover so much about Jason's childhood and it wouldn't ruin Jason. You know what I mean? You could find out so much about Jason's childhood, so much, and it wouldn't ruin Jason. It actually might help to make him even better and more interesting. With Michael, if you find out that, oh yeah, it was just this, or it was just that, or this, it kind of ruins it a little bit. You know what I mean? Because of the foundation for which the character is built. So I look at Pamela Voorhees and I'm like, yeah, let's explore her. If it's done right and the writing is really good, right? It's really good. And you start to really sort of care about this character. I don't necessarily mean root for her, but although it depends on how they write it, but certainly care about her and care about the character and care about what's going on and new insights and things. Yeah, it could be really interesting, a really cool exploration. And folks, they're working up to Jason. It's not the Pamela Voorhees story. It's not like the series is called Pamela, right? Where it's going to be 5 seasons of just Pamela Voorhees. No, it's Crystal Lake. So there's a very good chance that, they want to go back. They want to start with Pamela. They want to build the foundation again, right? And add some new things in there. And they want to build it out. And then maybe the first season is building all that, right? We see Pamela. We see the downfall of her marriage. Or we see, poor little Jason, 5-year-old Jason, poor little kid getting bullied at school. And, whatever it is, right? Like we're building that. And then eventually, season 2, is like, here we go, baby. See, all you Jason friend, and so that's likely what the situation is. And I'm okay with that. Because listen, winning solves everything at the end of the day, right? I mean, look at sports, right? A lot of us love sports. The Buffalo Sabres right now are one of the worst hockey teams in the NHL. They're my favorite hockey team. They've been my favorite hockey team since I was a 5-year-old kid. They've never won the Stanley Cup. They've had good seasons and bad seasons, but they haven't made the playoffs since 2011. My mom and dad were alive the last time the Buffalo Sabres made the playoffs. They are terrible, and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. They should be always in the mix, but for whatever reason, they just suck it every year. You know what I'm saying? But winning solves everything, right? If the Buffalo Sabres begin to win and all of a sudden they make the playoffs, everybody forgets. Nobody cares. They're amazing. It's like that even in the middle of a season. Take your sport. It doesn't matter. Baseball, football, hockey, basketball. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? Your team goes on a 13 losing game, or a 13 game losing streak, and you're like, oh, fucking suck. Fire the coach. Fire the manager. They suck. And all of a sudden they win 7 in a row. They're amazing. You know what I'm saying? And nothing's changed. changed. The coach hasn't changed. The manager hasn't changed. The players haven't changed. Nothing's changed. It's just all of a sudden they started winning. You know what I mean? And so winning solves everything. And entertainment seems to be like that. And listen, if the show is really good, it's really good. It's really good. You know what? The people going, no, I want Jason. They're not going to care. They're not going to care because they're going to be so emotionally invested, and they're going to have little Jason, and they're going to get perspectives they've never seen before, and situations they didn't even imagine, and context. They were like, oh my God, they expanded on that. I've always wanted to know about that. That's really cool. Now, of course, there's always a chance it could absolutely suck the bag, of course. And then if it does suck the bag, you let them have it. You let them know. You jump online, you do these shows, you write on your Twitter tweet X's, and you let them know. But until then, let's see. Let's give it a chance. I'm excited for this. And it feels more real now than it has in a long time, of course, because we actually know who's playing Pamela Voorhees. And this, you may not give a shit about Pamela now, but come back to me this time next year or in 2 years from now, and you may care a lot about Pamela Voorhees. Right? You don't care about Pamela now, not because she's a shitty character. She's untapped. She's underdeveloped. And listen, Betsy Palmer was a famous actress from, the golden age of the stage and screen. I mean, she wasn't like hugely famous, but she was known. And she's an older actress, and that movie is old, right? And that's really, the only, and if you're young, if you're 22 today, you have no connection to Pamela. Who is this? Old movies, but if a modern day take brings you a modern day Pamela and gives all that context that's there, right? And this is really interesting. You know what I mean? And an actress you're familiar with, it's modern production value, modern, look and editing and acting and all that kind of stuff. I guarantee you, all of a sudden Pamela's going to shoot to the top of the list. Pamela's awesome. Pamela's amazing. I love the Pamela Voorhees character. And that's what's going to happen, because that's what always happens when shit is good. And so if it's good, if it's really good, then people all of a sudden are going to be looking at the Pamela Voorhees character from a different perspective, because you're going to actually have material and you're going to actually have things to look at it from. You have to give it a chance. You got to give it a chance. They're going to do it whether you like it or not. So you might as well just jump on board and give it a chance, right? Don't judge it before you've seen it, right? And see how it goes. Now, the thing that does, I don't want to say it concerns me, but I find interesting is that they talk about she's a singer. And I just wonder how much backstory we're going to see of her as a singer, and whether or not that plays into the downfall of, like, how does she go from being this singer, and what kind of singer is she? Because all it says is believed to be a mother who had given up a singing career. So are we going to see that singing career, or is our end point just going to be, we're not going to see that, right? And that's possible too. You have to remember, for those of you that might be a little concerned about the singing career and whether or not we're going to get, jazz hands for the first 4 episodes of this show. No, you may not. I mean, that just might be part of the character's backstory, right? So when we're introduced to the character, she might have already, we are introduced at a point in her journey where she's already given up the career, right? That's just part of the backstory, part of the character, part of the meat on the bone. And, and maybe it comes back into, a couple of episodes. There's some, resentment there because she didn't want to give it up and things like that. But you're not going to necessarily start from the very beginning where we see her singing in jazz clubs or, on tour, or something like that. That may not happen. That just, we might be introduced to her already at her lowest point, right? And then we go from there. Right? So we start from there. And the backstory of her as a singer is just part of her character. We're not necessarily seeing that. Maybe we see it in a flashback. Maybe we see it in a dream sequence. I don't know. But we may not see it at all. We just find that out from maybe a conversation that she has. She's having lunch with a friend of hers, and her friend says, you really shouldn't, you shouldn't have given it up. She's like, I had to. Jason needs me, and just, things like that. It's not necessarily... It might not necessarily become a huge thing within the story itself. You could say, well, if that's the case, then why mention it? Well, I mean, it's just part of her character, right? I mean, I don't read that and think, oh, we're going to start from the very beginning and we're going to see 8 episodes of her on like tour singing or something, before we even get to the whole like downfall of Jason. No, I don't read that. That doesn't communicate that to me. Now, maybe that's what they're going to do, but that doesn't communicate that to me. That just communicates to me that, oh, she's a mother who gave up a singing career to raise her special needs kid. Okay, well, when we're introduced to her, that could already be happening, right? So it all depends on where they want to, how far they want to go back. How far do they want to go back? And, are we going to go back and see the birth of Jason? Are we going to go back and see, the father? Are we going to go back and see their dynamic and their relationship? That's entirely possible. Are we going to go back and see that? I don't know. And that stuff could be juicy. That stuff could be great. And listen, if it's really great with great acting and like, I know it's Peacock but it's A24 who's producing. And if we have like, almost kind of like maybe HBO level kind of acting, you never know, you might be like, I don't care. This is amazing. Look at Cobra Kai. I know it's a different beast altogether, but whoever would have thought, on paper, yeah, we're going to do a Karate Kid TV series. Let's do a Karate Kid TV series. People are like, wait, what? Yeah, we're going to bring back Ralph Macchio. We're going to get William Zabka, and we're going to do this thing where he's he's working at a car dealership, and Zabka, like, on paper, you'd be like, what the, why? How is this good? And look what it did. As Tony Michael was saying the other night on Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, Cobra Kai, the Karate Kid was fairly popular, but it wasn't, this huge cultural phenomenon like Back to the Future or E.T. or something like that, and now the Karate Kid and the legend of that first Karate Kid movie is more magical today because of Cobra Kai. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't thinking about the Karate Kid. I didn't give a shit about the Karate Kid. And all of a sudden Cobra Kai comes along and it just elevates everything to a whole new level. So the principles could be the same here. If this show is really good, really, it doesn't have to be, The Sopranos. I just mean, if it's really good, it's like, that's a good show. This is really good. It's better than I thought it was good. Way better than I thought it was going to be. It could take things and elevate. I'm just saying. So, just keep those things in mind. But I'm a huge fan. I always have been of doing the Pamela Voorhees story. That doesn't mean that they're going to do, who knows, maybe it'll be a catastrophic dumpster fire, and it still could be. But I think the jury is still out, personally. Obviously. And then there will no doubt be more casting news to come, right? And more tidbits of information to be revealed, which is exciting. Which is very exciting. So I'm looking forward to it, and seeing, can this be is this a viable option for the future of Friday the 13th? I know there are Friday the 13th fans that just want, like I said, that old school tits, teens, and blood. I want Jason on the big screen. That's what I want. That's it. And it's like I do understand that. I can empathize with that. I understand it. I can intellectualize it. I totally understand it. But I don't know. I don't know if Jason and Friday the 13th longevity is on the silver screen at the moment. Maybe I'm completely out to lunch, but horror is cyclical. So, what's old is new again, often in the world of horror. But, horror has changed a lot, and what's acceptable. And I know there's the Terrifier films, but that's a different beast altogether. Those aren't regular slasher movies. They're gimmicky splatter films. But when it comes to mainstream, general movie-going audience, I don't mean general movie-going audiences in rated G. I mean, more of what, a general movie-going audience would go see in terms of slashers. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that kind of thing, you could get one out of it. Yes, you could, because everybody would be very excited to see it again because you've been chomping at the bit. But I don't necessarily believe, because of how things have changed in the world of entertainment, I am not convinced. I'm ready to be proven wrong. I'm ready to be proven wrong. But at this moment in time, I'm not fully convinced that the future for any of the original big three, Freddy, Jason, and Michael, is on the big screen. Now you could say, what are you talking about, Dave? Halloween just made $250 million at the box office, and then Halloween Kills. Yeah, I understand. I get it. It was diminishing returns with each installment, right? But I totally get it. But, you know, there were other things that made that popular as well. And to just do that again, I don't know. Like a lot of the, you know, things change. And I'm, you know, one thing that can really help, of course, this could be a negative when it comes to Halloween because you don't want to reveal too much. But with shows, obviously, you have more time to explore, more time to develop characters, right? I mean, one season is essentially an 8-hour movie, right? So do you want 90 minutes or do you want 8 hours? You know, now that doesn't necessarily mean that it's, you know, going to be better, but certainly there is that opportunity to explore and elevate and add more meat on the bone and all that kind of stuff. So it's you know, it's fascinating to me, you know, that they have just, and Halloween as well, right? Miramax wants to do a Halloween show, and maybe that is the future, because at the end of the day, you know, I know, like, you can always make something work, but there's no doubt, you know, these types of conversations, you know, like, well, what the hell do we do now? Do we just do it again? You know, like with Halloween, I want Michael Myers back on the big screen. Well, how? Again? Well, you're just going to start again? Going to be Halloween. There's a little kid who kills his sister on Halloween night, and he's locked up for 15 years, and then he breaks out again, you know, and then he goes back to Haddonfield, and he kills his sister, and Dr. Loomis comes out. It doesn't mean I wouldn't be there day one to see it because I'm a Halloween fan. But when you think of it, like, we're just starting again? Like, how many fucking times can we do this? You know, I guess as many times as we go see it. But I don't care. Like, I don't care to do that again. It's over for me. Halloween's done. Like, I couldn't care less if they ever made another Halloween movie ever again. And that's not me not being a Halloween fan. That is me being a Halloween fan and recognizing that it has run its course. You know, of course, I will be there day one. You know, maybe they find interesting ways to reinvent it or tell it again, or enough time has gone by. You know, it's been 20 years and you want to introduce it to a new, you know, generation. Yeah, I get it. But to do it now, like, there's some people that wanted a new Halloween movie on the big screen like a year after Halloween ends. I'm like, again? I'm like, what? Like, hang on. I'm like, wait, hang on. At least let's wait till 2028, you know, the 50th year anniversary. And, you know, maybe, you know, anyways, I know I'm a bit of a different breed when it comes to these things at times, but maybe this is the future. Maybe, you know, a series, if it's done right, it's done well, it's done like Cobra Kai, where you look at it and it is very clear that they have honored the source material. They have honored the legacy. They have honored the DNA. It still feels, despite that it's a 1 hour, 8 episode streaming show, which you're not used to when it comes to Friday the 13th, when you watch each episode, it is very clear that this feels like it lives and breathes in that universe. You know, and it's done very well, and it's done with care and love and craft, you know, and you're like, this is actually really good. You know, does that mean every season will be great? No, but certainly you want to get off to a good start, a good first impression. And I'm down for it. I'm down for it because I sit back and I think maybe the future, and again, I don't just mean one movie, right? Yeah, you could get one big movie that's going to do well, but do you want to have another Friday the 13th 09? You know, like, do you want that? I don't. And I worry that if they just deliver what people seem to think that's all they need to do, it's kids at a camp and Jason killing. That's all it is. That's all it can. Yeah, but that's a very short shelf life, folks. A very short shelf life in 2025. That's a very short shelf life. You'll get one movie, and then what? They decide to do that again in a sequel? I mean, you can't. Not today. Not today. You know, and you already have those movies. And those types of films, the teens, tits, and blood, they're schlocky, you can't really do that today. Studios don't want, unless you're Terrifier, unrated, going past the MPA, it has a shtick and a gimmick, you know what I mean? But that's also not what Friday the 13th is either, right? Friday the 13th isn't Terrifier. You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, that's how I feel about it. I'm excited about this. I'm excited to see a series that focuses on Pamela Voorhees and seeing where it goes. Folks, listen, if you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on Linda Cardellini being cast as Pamela Voorhees in the Crystal Lake Peacock television series. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me go to the chat room and see what all of you are saying about this. A member chat comes in from Power Packers 90. Thank you. And says, hey, Dave, how are you, man? I mean, she knows how to play a villain. She did break up Corey and Topanga for a minute on Boy Meets World. Oh, was she on Boy Meets World? I didn't know that. I've watched that show and I don't remember her on it, but hey, there you go. There you go. You never know. You never know. Beep Bop Boob, £9.99. Thank you. Says, getting Linda Cardellini is a major coup. Do you think we'll get any more big names signed on? To me, this casting is a statement. We're getting high quality show. I'm expecting great writing and directing. Again, I recognize her, but I'm not as familiar with her as some people. So for me, it didn't hit me like, oh, wow, she's like, grade A mint here. This is a fantastic. I just was like, oh, yeah, okay. I mean, I've seen her before. Do I think we'll get other high profile actors? Well, it depends. I mean, if you're expecting like, George Clooney, Daniel Day-Lewis, Denzel Washington, I mean, no. Probably not. I mean, I wouldn't say that Linda Cardellini is an A-list actress, right? But she's known and she's very good. And she's very good. And she's been in some things. So yeah, it's not like what you were seeing is relative to the source material, right? So when we think of Friday the 13th and we think of Halloween and we think of A Nightmare on Elm Street, generally speaking, because they were schlocky B movies, and I say that with the utmost respect and affection and love, like in all the good ways, although not everyone was good. Yeah, for somebody even just in the middle of the high profile tier list in terms of actors to do a Friday the 13th show, it might seem like, oh, wow, that because you're so used to it being just kind of like, run at the bottom of the barrel kind of people we don't even know, because that's the stereotype, right? That's the stigma. And so does this show that it shows that they're taking it seriously? I don't think A24 would not take it seriously. They have a reputation they want to keep up. And so, will we see other high profile, actors or big names? You say big names. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. But big names, how, right? I mean, Meryl Streep or, Fred Savage. Like, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. But certainly, this is a good start. It's a good start. And I think you will see names in this show that you recognize, that you go, oh, that's good. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think you will. But like I said, if it's good, people won't care. Josh McKenna, $1.99. I know Linda Cardellini from Legally Blonde. Oh, was she in Legally Blonde? Yeah, see, I recognize her. I do. I've seen that film. I recognize her. So, but I'm not as familiar with her as some people are. But we'll see, though. We shall see. Bebop Boop, £4, 99 pence. I know it's a prequel, but will we get to see Jason full grown in the mask, sack hockey, going to town on would-be summer campers? Rock on, Dave. Well, again, I think that could be something that they might be working towards. Yes. Will you get that in the first season? I don't know. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you do. Maybe it's a 10-episode first season and the first 5 episodes are, an hour long each. So that's 5 hours right there. And maybe in those first 5 hours, those first 5 episodes, it's really focusing on the backstory and Jason as a, 5-6-year-old and working up. And then you see the camp and he goes to camp and you see all that. And then maybe the last few episodes, they do that transition. But it would feel weird to do that. I think if the goal is to bring Jason Voorhees back, which I think it is at some point, you would probably want to have a clean season where you can tease that and set that up at the end of the final episode, however long it is. It might be 6 episodes, it might be 8 episodes, it might be 10 episodes. Something tells me they're going to want to maybe do 6 to 8 episodes. 10 feels like too much to me, but you never know. But that feels like something you'd want to tease. And oh shit, here we go, because then that's just that dangling of the carrot to keep people interested, to keep people invested, to keep people excited for what's coming next. And then of course there's that speculation and that anticipation and talking about it and pontificating about it, all that kind of stuff, which would be a lot of fun. And so again, you don't want to peak too soon, right? You don't want to play all your cards, right? And so if I was structuring it, which I'm not, but if I was the showrunner, that's kind of how I think I'd want to structure it. You know, if they give us 6 episodes, I'd say, okay, well, let's do the Pamela Voorhees story here. And it's also Jason's story as well. It's just, he's a kid. You're just seeing him as a kid. He's in it. You're just seeing everything that leads up to the eventuality of what would have been Friday the 13th, part 1 in 1980. And so, and then of course, part 2 and, you know, all that kind of jazz. And so, yeah, I would, that's how I feel it makes logical sense to structure it. You know, kind of like what they did with Batman Begins, right? Batman Begins, you know, they didn't have Joker in it. Everybody knows that Joker is Batman's arch nemesis. He's the Darth Vader of the Batman world, in the sense of that he's the most popular villain, all that kind of stuff. And so, but you know, in Batman Begins, right at the end, they didn't start with Joker. They could have done what, you know, Tim Burton did with Batman 1989, and that's not necessarily the wrong thing to do necessarily, but Nolan started with Scarecrow, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. And he showed the backstory of Batman and training and all this kind of stuff. And then at the very end, one of the last scenes of the movie, Batman flips over that card and it's a Joker card. Oh, fuck yeah, right? You know what I'm saying? And everyone's like, oh, you know. And then, of course, for the next 3 years, you're like, who's going to play Joker? And then, of course, Heath Ledger, that fucking sucks, man. The guy from 10 Things I Hate About You, that is lame-o. And then, of course, he becomes everybody's favorite Joker. And so, you know, there's reasons, there's business reasons for doing it that way. And it's fun to do it that way. So I would believe that that's likely what they're going to do. I don't think you're going to see hockey mask, slasher, machete wielding Jason in this first season. Maybe, I don't know, but I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think they'd want to tease that for a season 2 if it's successful. That's what I'm thinking anyway. Michael Parton sends in $2. Thank you. Says, do you still think Betsy Palmer is legendary? Legendary? Is Betsy Palmer a legend? You know, I'm not familiar enough with her work, with her body of work, to be able to, again, I'm very particular when I talk, you know, when I use those words, right? I believe that in the world of fandom, we use buzzwords way too loosely and too commonly. Everybody's the GOAT, everybody's an icon, everybody's a legend. Well, if everybody's a GOAT and everybody's an icon and everybody's a legend, nobody's a GOAT and nobody's an icon and nobody's a legend. And so I think those words should be used for true icons and true legends. And there are many ways that you can measure that. There are some, you know, longevity is one way. There are also some people that have a very short career, but their impact is unbelievably huge, and their even though they died 50 years ago, their staying power is I mean Elvis Presley up until just a number of years ago was still like the number 1 selling recording or number 3 or something like that. It was something, and he's been dead for 40. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like, you know, when you get to, that's like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? That's like stratosphere, out of this world legend, you know? And so there are many different ways we can measure it, you know, but, you know, when I say that Betsy Palmer is a legend, my gut instinct is to say no. But it would depend on, I'd have to go back and look at her body of work, look at the films, and see kind of how I feel about it. A horror legend? Sure, yeah, because her time was very short and brief in the world of horror and Friday the 13th. But you can also, you know, again, it depends what we're measuring, right? You can also whittle it down to genres or to IPs, right? Like Nick Castle is not a legend. He's not a legend. He's not a Hollywood legend, but he's a Halloween legend, right? You know what I'm saying? Would I say Nick Castle's a horror legend? Probably, right? I mean, but I'd say he's more a Halloween legend, right? Is Robert Englund a legend of stage and screen? Yeah, not really, but he's a horror legend, right? He's a horror legend, absolutely. At bare minimum, he's a horror legend for sure. For sure he is. Up there with Vincent Price and, Bela Lugosi and, all these things, right? And so it depends, right? I mean, and sometimes there's crossover as well, right? You can be a legend of your genre and a legend outside of it. Is Mark Hamill a legend? No. But is he a Star Wars legend? Yeah, sure, right? It all depends, right? There's many, I look at it from this kind of, perspective, because then I know that's not comfortable, and some people don't like to analyze things to that degree, but I think there's some value into looking at things like that, because, if we just group everybody together in the same basket, then that diminishes. I'm not going to group Robert Englund in the same basket as Elvis Presley. That's not, that's too completely. Do you know what I mean? And that's not taking anything, what the hell did I just say? That's not taking anything away from Robert Englund. He is a legend. He's an absolutely horror legend for sure. But he's not on the same, plane as Elvis Presley, right? Or Michael Jackson, or even like a Robert De Niro, And so, it depends. It depends how we're measuring it. What are the measuring sticks? What's the litmus test? I know that's not fun to do because people just like to he's a legend. And so that's fine. I get it. Yes, he is. Yes, Robert Englund is a legend. Yes. But there's degrees and there's levels to this kind of thing, right? Is how I see it. So is Betsy Palmer a legend? Yeah, she could be, but I wouldn't put her on the same, stratosphere as Katharine Hepburn or Betty Davis, or something like that, right? There are levels, I guess I would say. Let me just see here. Brandon Collins, thank you, Brandon, says Jason will hardly be in this show. Miller only owns elements that were introduced in the first film. This whole show is going to be Pam's backstory. Yeah, I have heard that, but I've heard different things as well. I've heard that something that because this is a television series, that adult Jason can exist. And so, yeah, I need to brush up on it, but I know what you're saying, Brandon, and maybe you can look into it for me. But there was something about that. Now, maybe that's changed. But within the last year, because I thought the same thing, I thought, well, hang on a sec. How can they can't even, how does that? But there was something about somebody, maybe it was Brian Fuller, who said, no, we have everything. Or maybe it was Victor Miller. I can't, we have everything. We can do something like that. Do you guys remember that? It was something that's like, oh, okay. Cause I was thinking, yeah, how you can't, you don't know, you just have this little, you can't. But apparently they have a little more leeway than I think was first thought. That's my understanding, but I could be wrong. Maybe new information has come out and now it is not that way. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure. Frank says, Jesus, Dave, snorted sugar. I did. I snorted sugar, Frank. I did. It's the way it is. Let me take a swig of water here. Have I got all the super chats? Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I want to make sure I am not missing anybody and anything, ladies and gentlemen. Is this not... Oh, I see. Let me just refresh this. Hello. Oh, are we still live? Yeah, we're still live, right? Oh, no, we're not. Are we still live? No. Hang on a sec. Oh. Something's happened here. 1 second. Okay. I think I am back. I think I am back on, ladies and gentlemen. Am I back? Am I back? Let me know if I'm back. I think I'm back, folks. I think I'm back. Oh, there we go. Yep. I think I'm back. My apologies for that. I'm back. You're back, baby. You're back. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. All of a sudden, it was like I lost internet connection, but I didn't lose internet connection. My internet was perfectly fine, but it told me it wasn't. I'm like, no, but it is. Anyways, I'm back, baby. I'm back. So, yeah, I was going over to the other side to make sure I didn't miss any super chats or member chats. I don't want to make sure. Frank Riker, Josh Stevens. No, I did miss a few. Good thing. Member chat comes in from the Violator 862. Been a member for 5 months. Thank you very much. Says, I haven't really seen much of her in other stuff, but from what I've seen, she's great, and I'm happy she's going to get to be in Friday the 13th. Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a good move. I don't have any apprehensions about the casting of Pamela Voorhees at all. Josh Stevens, thank you, Josh, says, Dave, ever watch Bates Motel? I haven't, but I heard it was really good. I never got around to watching it, though reviews were great. From what I saw, it seemed lame, and I'm nervous for this. I heard great things about Bates Motel, and so we'll see. I'm open to it. I'm open to this. Frank, what's going on? Frank says, here's my prediction. Pamela will only be seen in the first episode and last. Ooh, the middle filler is all about teens and their problems. It'll suck. I'm glad that you have such optimism, Frank. I think that's the way to be, is to have that level of optimism and excitement. Look, I mean, expectations obviously are a huge thing no matter what. And I think this is no different. And if you are somebody that does not care about the Pamela Voorhees character, and you're out there, you just want Jason Voorhees, machete, teens, tits, and blood. That's all you want. That's all you care about. It's all you've wanted for the last 16 years. You don't care about backstory and Pamela Voorhees and Jason in school. If you don't care about any of that, then you are already going into it with, okay. So I hope you at the very least find it somewhere in you to be open to it. Right? But if you're somebody like me who's it's not that I'm not apprehensive. It's not that I'm not going to be a little cautious. What's going on here? What's that? How's it going? But I think it's a really good idea to explore Pamela Voorhees and make it, because then, guys, look, I mean, if this show is killer, like if it really is, and it's really good, even if Jason isn't in it in the first, like in the Jason the way we want it, right? It's not adult Jason. It's little kid Jason. Fine. If it's really good, folks, I mean, really good, and you don't feel like it's Cobra Kai good, like, I mean, in relation to its source material, right? When you watch Cobra Kai, like, I'm not saying every season was great. It probably went on 1 or 2 seasons too long, but we all can agree that, yeah, they did an amazing job at connecting the universes, paying respect to what came before. If this is going to be the same thing, but for Friday the 13th, I mean, I'm in, man. Why not? I'm in. Give us something new, right? Make me love it, right? Make me go, wow, that was really good. That was really good. Make me realize things I didn't even know I was missing, right? Make me realize things I didn't even know I was missing. So I'm open to it. But you guys know me. If I think it's a pile of dog shit, I'll tell you it's a pile of dog shit. I'll be like, I'm not a fan. I don't like what they did not like it. I'm not a fan. They had such an opportunity and you blew it. What's that movie? What's that movie from, folks? You blew it. Somebody will know. Michael Parton, $5, says, I was actually referring to the character of Pamela Voorhees and the way Betsy Palmer played her. Of course, she only took the role to buy a new car. That's true. The character, do I think the character of Pamela Voorhees is legendary? Yeah, in the world of Friday the 13th, yeah. It's not pop culture zeitgeist legendary. It's not Darth Vader. It's not, Rambo or Indiana Jones, where you cross the threshold of your own genre, and you're not just a icon in your own genre, you become a pop culture zeitgeist icon like Freddie, right? Freddie has crossed the threshold of his own genre and become a zeitgeist icon, in a lot of ways. And so has Pamela Voorhees done that? No, not yet. But maybe Crystal Lake is the beginning of that, right? Maybe Crystal Lake is the beginning of that. Who knows? So I would say she's a Friday the 13th legend. Yeah, for sure. Horror legend? Yeah, a little bit. Like horror is a big, there's a lot of subgenres in the world of horror, but I certainly, yeah. A slasher legend? Yeah, I would. I wouldn't say a pop culture zeitgeist legend though. Not yet. You know what I mean? Hasn't quite hit that level, but you never know. Still could. The Violator 862 sends in a very generous super chat of $19.99. Thank you, Violator. Really appreciate that. Says, waiting for Dave to be cast as Crazy Ralph. Someone should start a petition. You're all doomed. You're all doomed. Did anybody say it? Did anybody get it? Copland, yes! Tim, my man, Tim, the former cop. Makes sense you'd get it. I love that movie. Oh, Backtrack Cinema got it as well. Amazing. So did Brandon Collins. So did Frank. Awesome. A bunch of you got it. Awesome. Yeah, I love Copland. Copland, one of my, I love it. Fantastic movie. Really, really great movie. And I love that scene. Stallone was amazing in it. De Niro, he's chewing the shower. You blew it! Fucking blew it. He doesn't say that, but he says, you blew it. I love it. Love it. One of my favorite movies. I don't talk about that enough, actually. Really, really great film. Shamrock Bulls says, Daz. Oh, it's talking to Daz. It's hard not to believe it's because he died. Oh, I see. You're talking to somebody else. I thought you were asking me a question. Let me just double check. I just want to double check. I haven't missed anything. I always like to bust into my Loomis every now and then. It's drunk Loomis. I do the drunk Loomis. Ray Liotta deserved a supporting actor nomination for that film. He was great. Sly was great in that movie. I mean, I think he put on like 40 pounds for that film, and he was great. Yeah, he was great. But yeah, look, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think it's good casting. Again, I have seen her in movies, but I don't know her body of work enough to be able to come at it from the perspective that some of you have, which is, that is really good. That's a great cat. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, and maybe I would feel that way. I might feel the same way. I might feel the exact same way if I knew more of her work. But I'm just like, yeah, I know her. I've seen her and things. Yeah, she's good. Yeah, okay. So we'll see. You never know. Josh McKenna, what's going on, Josh? Says, is GOAT an icon a Gen Z thing? I know Gen Z makes TikTok videos about Britney Spears. A lot of people are obsessed with her personal life and reads her book. She had a hard life. She did have a hard life. A Gen Z no, I don't think so. I mean, what you mean? Like the terms icon and legendary and GOAT have been around for years. I mean, years and years and years and years and years. Maybe you mean, is it a Gen Z thing to just refer to everybody as a GOAT and an icon and a legend? Yeah, probably. But I don't think, look, a lot of these younger people, I don't think necessarily are not thinking as deeply about it, right? Most of the time, these words are tossed around today to just simply mean when something is popular, right? When something is really hot or really popular, or somebody has a streak of popularity, it's like, oh yeah, they're fucking legendary. They're the GOAT, man. It's icon, because they're really popular. And, being really popular, I mean, yes, most GOATs and legends and icons do become popular, but that isn't the litmus test of why they are like that. I think it's just a buzzword. It's just casually tossed around, to refer to something that they really like. They really like it. They have a passion for it. They really, really like it. It means a lot to them. So to them, it's a GOAT. To them, it's a legend, But if you want to actually define it, is it a personal legend thing where it's like really amazing in your own life? Well, that's another way to measure it, right? But objectively, is Jack Black a cinematic legend of screen and stage? No. No. He's popular. He's great. He's a great, and yeah, like most actors and performers and singers and dancers and directors and filmmakers, most people will never achieve Spielberg status. Do you know what I mean? Most people don't achieve that. But that doesn't mean that everything below that is shit. That if you don't achieve that, you're not amazing, you're not great. Like I've said many times, there are amazing baseball players, football players, hockey players. Like great players, Hall of Famers. There are Hall of Famers that will never achieve the greatest of all time status. Do you know what I mean? And there are great hockey players, like really good hockey players, really great baseball players that have won championships. There are hockey players and football players and baseball players and soccer players and basketball players that have won championships that never wind up in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? It's like there's a whole, there's a whole gray area in there. You can be great. You can be celebrated. You could win a championship. You could have a great flourishing career and everybody could know your name and you can get hired to make movies or to be in movies or to, whatever the case is and have a wonderful, comfortable career and never get into the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? It's like there's, there's a whole wonderful flourishing area that isn't necessarily to really achieve that level in my mind. I mean, I know today we hand out Hollywood stars like we hand out, pieces of bread to the ducks in the pond, but in my mind anyway, I like to reserve legend, for people where you're that's a legend. Like Harrison Ford, right? Yeah, he's a legend. And I mean, Steven Spielberg. Yeah, clearly. Yeah. I mean, nobody's going to argue with that, right? Jack Black, maybe in somebody's mind, in somebody's world, but anyway. Wolfman's got nards. What's going on, Wolfman? Been a member of my channel for 10 months. Thank you, Wolfman. I really appreciate that. Barry from Wolfman's Got Nards says, Charlie Conway is the greatest hockey player of all time. Charlie Conway. I've never heard of Charlie Conway. I don't know who Charlie Conway is. Maybe you're just making a joke. I'm not sure. I'll have to look him up. If he's a real guy, I'll have to look him up. The greatest hockey, often who's considered the greatest athlete of all time is Wayne Gretzky. And the reason for that is because of how much he dominated his sport over everybody else. When Wayne Gretzky retired in 1999, I think he had something like 63 or 73 NHL records. Now, he's lost some now because obviously it's been, 26 years. But he still has 50-something records. It's ridiculous. And Alex Ovechkin, I know I'm boring some people now, I'm sure, but Alexander Ovechkin, the Russian hockey player who plays for the Washington Capitals, is about to break Wayne Gretzky's goal record. I mean, this is somebody breaking the all-time home runs record kind of thing. This is huge. Wayne Gretzky's goal record, he had 894 goals. And Alexander Ovechkin at this very moment has 889. He's only 6 away from breaking it, or 5 away. And it's huge. It's all over the news here. It's huge. And, but here's how good Wayne Gretzky was. And if you're not a hockey fan, you may not be able to understand this. But if you're a sports fan and you watch basketball, football, baseball, you'll be able to, understand what I'm saying. So when Wayne Gretzky retired, he had something like 2,850 something points. If you took if Wayne Gretzky never scored a goal, so you get 1 point for a goal and you get 1 point for an assist. If you took Wayne Gretzky's goals all away, right? So he had 894 goals. If you take all of his goals away, so he never scored a goal, he would still have more points than the next person has in assists. Incredible. He was unbelievable. And there are other amazing hockey players that, rival him of course. But he is often considered not just the greatest hockey player of all time because of all the accolades and all that, but because there wasn't anybody else who dominated their sport in the same way. It's like Michael Jordan was great, but there was also Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and there were other greats that like he dominated, but he didn't dominate basketball the way Gretzky dominated hockey, right? And that's why he's often considered one of the greatest athletes of all time in any sport, period. But yeah, I mean, it's how you measure it and all that is. Oh, Charlie Conway is the Mighty Ducks man. Oh, yes. Okay. All right. I haven't seen the Mighty Ducks in quite a few years, so you'll have to excuse my brain fart. Thank you. Yeah. Dean Renner, the man himself, Emilio. Right. Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen Mighty Ducks. It's been a while. Brandon Collins, Gretzky had an easy mode, video game stats, first numbers run. It was. And look, there are people today that try to diminish his accomplishments because they say, well, he played in an era that was easier to score. He played in an era where the goalies were not that good or not as good as they are now. And it's like, well, okay, yes, like any sport, basketball is better now than it was 35 years ago, right? It's more, it's a tougher competition now. Football is harder today than it was 40 years ago. Baseball is harder today than it was 40 years ago. And hockey is harder today and faster today than it was 40 years ago. Yeah, of course. But nobody else in that era came close either. It's not like there were 38 Gretzkys, right? It's not like everybody was scoring because it was so easy to score. No, he was a phenom. It was ridiculous, right? But there were other greats as well. Mario Lemieux, I mean, Jesus, incredible. And Gretzky often says if it wasn't for the injuries, Mario Lemieux probably would have passed him. And he's probably right. Mario Lemieux was amazing, and now, of course, it's Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby and, Alex Ovechkin and all these guys who are just as amazing, but you can't look at, it was easier to score back then, so he sucks. That's not how it works. That's not how, you know what? Basketball is harder today. It was a little easier in the 90s, so therefore Jordan sucks. That's not how it works. Shut up and no, because everybody's playing at the same time, all things being equal at that time. You know what I mean? It's so ridiculous. Anyway, I digress. Evil Monsterism, been a member for 16 months. Thank you, Evil Monsterism, and says Spielberg is definitely iconic, but the question is he iconic as Dominic Girard? Oh, listen, nobody is as iconic as Dominic Orthinian Girard. Dominic Orthinian Girard, the director of Halloween 5, is one of the greats. He is one of the greatest. Listen, Halloween 5 really is one of the greatest cinematic achievements in the history of motion pictures. It is one of the greatest cinematic achievements in the history of motion pictures. Nobody comes close. He's amazing. He is great, incredible. I am incredulous every time I watch that movie of the sheer magnitude of the cinematic language and the deep-seated symbolism and the material, and it is completely misunderstood. It's the greatest Halloween film of all time, and Dominic Orthinian, it should have been nominated for every Oscar, he should have been nominated for Best Director, Best Picture. He should have had a flourishing career. I could not agree more. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Wolfman says, Paul Kariya was my favorite hockey player back in the day. Yeah, Paul Kariya. Yeah, he played for the Ducks. That's probably why. He was good. Is he in the Hall of Fame? He might be. He might be in the Hall of Fame. He was really good. And that's a perfect example of a great hockey player, like a really great hockey player. Like everybody knows him. Great hockey player, right? Yeah, he's really good. Yeah, he was great. My favorite hockey player growing up was Pat LaFontaine. He is in the Hall of Fame. And I got to meet Pat LaFontaine back in the early 90s when I was a kid, obviously because of what my dad did. And when the Sabres came to Ottawa and were playing the Senators, I got to go into the dressing room. I think I've told this before. I got to go in the dressing room, meet the Sabres, and I got Pat LaFontaine's autograph, and it was so cool. I met him at the morning skate because they have a morning skate, and then my dad got tickets to the game that night, and because my dad was there covering the game. So it was pretty cool. And so after the game was done, I think the Sabres probably won. I went downstairs, and this is, I mean, as a kid, like now as an adult, you're like, well, yeah, because it's only like 8 hours later. You know what I mean? But as a kid, it meant so much to me. So it's 8 hours later, the game is over, or maybe it's, 8 or 9 hours later. I go down, the steps down, where the dressing rooms are. I go into the dressing room, and Pat LaFontaine sees me, and he walks over to me, and he goes, "Hey, Dave, how you doing?" And I'm like, he remembered my name. Oh, my God. He remembered my name. Of course, as an adult, you're like, well, yeah, because there's no other kids in the dressing room, and he wasn't meeting any other kids earlier that day. So, yeah, I mean, had it been like, now, like right now, if I reached out to Pat LaFontaine, I was like, "Hey, Pat, remember in 1992? Dave, what's going on, buddy? Great to hear from you." Yeah, now it would be like, now that would be incredible, but I just remember as a kid being so excited that he remembered my name, and it was really, really cool. But yeah, at that time, for those of you that are hockey fans, at that time, the Sabres had a pretty stacked team. They had Grant Fuhr as the goalie, and Pat LaFontaine, and Alexander Mogilny, and Dave Anderchuk, and Dale Hawerchuk, and it was a pretty stacked early 90s Sabres team. It's pretty good. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. What time is it? We'll go a little bit longer because I know I conked out there for a little bit. Alley Girl says, "Loving the hockey talk, Dave. You should do it more often." Well, if I did a show just about hockey, nobody would tune in. I mean, you guys, some of you would, but, I do notice, I pay attention to who's in the chat, and I notice when I start, like if I started to go off on "It's Me, Billy" right now, people would start to tune out. You know what I mean? If I start talking about hockey, people, I'm not a sports channel. It's okay to talk about it in little bits and bobs like this, but if I did a whole show on it, nobody would tune in. Josh Stevens says, "It's not completely an unrelated discussion because Jason does wear a hockey mask." That's true. Oh, that's true. That is true. That is true, Josh. That is very true. That is very true. Okay, let me just double check. I just want to make sure I haven't missed any super chats or member chats. I just want to make sure. Goddamn son of a conting hand. Goddamn blithering Nazi pig. No. Okay, the last one was the member chat, was the Spielberg one. That's right. Okay. All right, that's good. Just want to make sure. But yeah, no, I'm excited for this. I think I'm curious to see where the Crystal Lake series is going to go. I'm rooting for it. I am. I never want anything. I'm not like one of these people that always wants things to be bad. I'm not one of those channels that just spends my entire life ripping into Disney and hoping that shit fails. I'm not like that. Like I actually, I don't get involved in that, in the drama of that. I always want things to be good, like anything. I don't care if it's Snow White or if it's a Star Wars movie with Rey, or I don't care. I want it to be good because if it's really good, if it's really great, isn't that great? Isn't that good? If it actually is really great, that's what I want. So Pamela Voorhees, Crystal Lake, I want it to be great. I hope it's great. I really do, because it's not good when so many things fail. That's not good. That's not good. And so I hope it's good. I do. I really do. Let me see. Daz says, "The real question is, why did Shelley have a hockey mask?" Well, he was just going around farting around, right? He's farting around And those hockey masks, I mean, goalies don't wear those anymore. But back when goalie masks, thanks to Jacques Plante, who was the first goalie to wear a mask. It's not even a mask. I mean, it's, you know, it is, but, and obviously they evolved. But if you look at some of the goalie masks in the 70s, that's where you'll see, like, that's really what that is from. It's stylized, like the Jason hockey mask is stylized off how they used to look in the, I wish, and they're probably not, I wish those masks, like who's that goal? This is fucking wicked. Hey, hang on a sec. I just want to look up something. 1 sec. There was a really cool, I forget the name of the player. Hang on a sec here. I forget the name, but like some of these, you could never wear these masks now because the shots are too hard. I mean, when people take slap shots with a rubber puck, they're flying like at you at like 105 miles an hour. I mean, like you can't, you know, it's like a fastball. You know, you can't have that. But some of the hockey, like the hockey masks from the 70s were amazing. The artwork and all that kind of shit was so great. It was so great. There was one hockey mask I'm looking forward here. It was like a long kind of, anyways, I'm probably not going to find it, but I wish they could figure out a way to go back to that style of mask, but make it with the same construction as today's masks so that if a puck hits you, you're okay. But stylistically, in terms of the style, oh, there was so much character. Like so much fucking character. Like, look at this. Hang on a second. I'm going to share my screen. Like, just look at some of this stuff, guys. Like, look at some of this shit. Like, these are not that guy right there. He's from the 90s. But, like, look at this. Look at that. It's fucking awesome, man. Hey, Sabres goalie. Sabres goalie practice mask. It's fucking wicked-ass shit. Look at that. Look at these masks. Look at that. Cover of Sports Illustrated right there. Like, fuck, man. I'm telling you, they had, like, you get hit with a puck, and you're just dead. You're just dead. You know what I mean? But some of these masks were so cool. Like, look at that. There was such character to them. You know what I mean? It was so fucking awesome, man. And now every mask pretty much looks the same. I broke a puck. For those of you that don't know, I played ice hockey growing up. I played for 13 years. And it was during a warm-up. Because if you watch hockey, if you know hockey, there's the warm up during, before the game begins. And my goalie was not in the net yet. I think our goalie was still on his way out. But we were taking shots at the empty net. And I stepped over the blue line and I took a slap shot. I had a very good and hard slap shot. And I took a slap shot and the puck sailed up. And I thought it was going for the top corner, which is kind of where I was aiming. And it just missed the top corner and it hit the crossbar. And all I saw was the puck go, and it split in two. It split in two and went over the boards. And I'm like, did I break the puck? And then I just forgot about it because I'm in the middle of, the warm-up. And then at the very end of the year, my coach, on one of our last games of the year, my coach hands me a plaque with the two pieces from the puck glued to it. And he hands it to me and he's like, not everybody can say they've broken a puck. And I'm like, shit. I was like, yeah, I did. I totally forgot about it because it was early in the year, right? And I totally forgot about it. And, but yeah, I had a good slap shot. I did. I was good. I was a very good hockey player. I miss playing it, actually. But I was very good. What position did I play? I played, for most of my career, I played left wing. I was a left winger. But I have played defense as well. I was left D. I have played that and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing defense because you get to, get into the mix and rough it up in the corners and things like that, which I really liked. But most of my career, I was left wing and I was good. I was a good hockey player. And, but yeah, I'll never forget that. I broke and I still have it. It's in a box under my stairs somewhere. I still have it. I still have that plaque with the 2 pieces of the puck glued to it that my coach, because he saw it. He was on the bench and he saw it and he was like, what the fuck? I don't know how fast it was going. I mean, obviously, I didn't have my slap shot measured, but I mean, and I'm not saying my shot was as fast as, the NHL guys, but it was probably going at least 80, 90 at least. I mean, it probably, so it was moving. It was moving. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I miss out the hockey days. Mcrae Pictures. Hello, Mcrae Pictures. $4.99. Dear Dave McFake. Yes, your fan film, It's Me, Billy, ruined my life. I am so glad it ruined your life. I waited all my life for a new Black Christmas film and you ruined it. Yes. Yeah, well, that was the goal. Was I wanted to ruin your life. And if I ruined your life, then I have succeeded. That's funny. Let me see here. Chester Franklin Jr. says, I'm not much into hockey, but the Red Wings needs to get some wins and get into the playoffs if they're not making the playoffs. Yeah, well, I don't know if the Red Wings are in a playoff spot or not. I'm not sure. They had a tough first half of the season. They switched their coach. Then they won some games. I don't know where they are right now. I'm not sure where they are. But yeah, the Sabres, my poor Sabres. Oh my God. I will die a Sabres fan, folks. I will die a Sabres fan. But, I mean, they suck right now, unfortunately. Let me see here. Michael Edwards says, Dave used to skate faster than Pavel Bure and shoot the puck harder than Sergei Fedorov or Al McInnes. Al McInnes had a really hard slap shot, or, one of the hardest of them all, Zdeno Chara. Yeah, I was good. I have, I think I've shared pictures of me in my hockey days. I think if not, I will. This is the 90s, of course, the 80s and the 90s, but, yeah, I had a lot of fun. I miss it. I miss playing. I've often thought about joining, a beer league, right? Which just means it's a bunch of middle-aged guys who are mostly out of shape playing hockey, right? You know what I mean? And it's like a league. Now, thankfully, I'm in shape. I'll be 46 in May, but I jog and I do some weights and so I'd probably do pretty well. I mean, most of the guys are probably, if you see some of these guys in these beer leagues, it's like, what the hell? But I probably would do all right because I still have really good stamina because I run like 10K 3 times a week. So I probably would do pretty good in these beer leagues. I just have to get equipment. I don't have any equipment anymore. I got to go buy all the equipment again. Ali says, the Sabres will come around. They have some great skaters. Yeah, well, it's been 15 years. I'm not, not 15 years, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years. I'm not holding my breath. Josh McKenna, member chat, says, Drum Dums and Cody Leach are my favorite reviewers. Amazing. They give fair reviews to Snow White, and they never root movies to fail. They are not hyperbolic. I agree with that. I think Cody and Drum Dums are some of the better reviewers in the space because they're real reviewers. I mean, the channels that are into the toxic fandom woke stuff, they're not movie reviewers. They're news woke. They're just they're not movie reviewers. You know what I mean? But Cody and Lee are great. Yeah, no, I often will watch a lot of their shit. They're fantastic. Yeah, I can't imagine. And listen, like I've said many times, I like a good rant. I like to, get off and get off. That didn't sound good. Go off on a good rant. And cause it's fun, right? It's fun. But I can't imagine dedicating my entire, YouTube hobby, to, vitriol and hatred. And I just can't imagine doing that. I like being able to have a good rant and vent every now and then, but I can't imagine that's just I mean, there's so much hate and so much, I just can't imagine doing it. Josh Stevens, $1.99. Thank you very much. Says, loved It's Me, Billy. Any Hopper updates? Give us what we want. House on Port Robinson Road. No new updates yet. No. I am, the script is done, as you know, the house on Port Robinson Road. I am, fine tuning it. And I will continue to fine tune it, and that kind of stuff. And I will continue to polish it and tweak it and things like that. But it's mostly done. And then I'm going to get a couple people to look at it, give some feedback. And then I have a lookbook that I've created, which I've talked about. But in terms of like real momentum for it yet, in terms of like production companies or financing or things like that, no. Nothing in that wheelhouse yet, because I'm still trying to get my ducks in a row on how I want to approach the house on Port Robinson Road. So again, as I've said many times, because it's a personal piece, I want to retain as much creative control as possible. And as I've said before, I'm not naive. I mean, if I join forces with a studio or a production company, I mean, there's always give and take. There's always compromise. That's always going to happen. But I'm starting to get to the point, during the situation where it's like, do I want to fund a smaller piece like we talked about during the voiceover workshop? Do I want to fund a smaller piece where I then, create a concept and I use that to help market and, raise funds? Or do I start down the road of searching out film grants and programs and crowdfunding, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I am. I'm in the middle of trying to figure all that out. And in the meantime, I'll drop some interesting little moody teaser kind of stuff. Nothing that gives anything away, but just kind of helps to perpetuate the intrigue and the mystique around the idea of the project. I will continue to do that, of course. But I'm very excited about it. Like I've said, it's an original film, guys. This isn't It's Me, Billy. So for all of you that don't care about Black Christmas and It's Me, Billy, this isn't that. It's not a fan film. It's an original film, original project, feature length, major film, that I'm very, very excited about, inspired by true events. It is a horror film, but it is a elevated horror film. It's probably not, I don't want to give too much away, but I'll just say that it is horror and it's going to have all the classic Dave Mcrae mood and atmosphere and tension and all that wonderful juicy scares and stuff. But it's not just that. There's a lot more to it. There's a cerebral sort of philosophical component to it, which I think is really interesting because it, when it deals with the sort of the age group and college kids and haunted house and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the tagline right now is "Another dimension of consciousness awaits." Right. So what does that mean? Oh, my God, that's cerebral in and of itself. So I'm very excited about it. I don't believe it's something that I will necessarily be able to crowdfund completely. I'm not even saying I will crowdfund anything. It may not be a crowdfunded film at all, because this is a much different beast than the It's Me, Billy films. And they were beasts, but this is like, this is a much different beast altogether. So whether I crowdfund some of it or all of it or a portion of it, I don't know, because it's not a film that can be made for $100,000. But very excited, and anytime anybody wants to ask me about it, please do. It's something that I this is a project that I'm very, very excited about. And it's an original horror film. So there you go. For all of you that want original horror films, this is an original horror film. And so, but it's a horror drama, it's a psychological film. So we'll see. But I'll drop some, some tidbits and little atmospheric, moody stuff, to get people excited. And hopefully you'll be excited. Hopefully you will. Or maybe you won't. Maybe you won't care at all. I don't know. But not you, Josh. I just mean maybe people won't care. I don't know. But just please know this is not a fan film, so you don't have to worry about, it's an original horror. So if you're interested in original horror, well then this might be for you. This might be for you. But thank you for asking me about it, because I am working on it every day. Every day. Okay, have I got everything? I think I do. I think I've got everything. Let me just go back over here and see. I believe I do. I just want to make sure I've got everything. Conning how, goddamn blithering Nazi pig. I believe I do. I believe I have everything. Gomez, bloody bone sediment, bing bang, brum bam bam bing. Michael Evans says Salem's Lot and It were my favorite TV series. Very cool. Very cool. Ali Girl says, I love It's Me, Billy, so much. Thank you very much. Thank you for the love and support. Evil Monsterism says people with 1,000 alt accounts are probably waiting to give it a bunch of bad reviews without ever watching it. Oh, you mean the House on... Oh, yeah, for sure. And I've already had that happen with, It's Me, Billy, right? People just create, they create accounts, give it a bad review. Oh, it's Dave Mcrae. This damn Dave Mcrae. Can't stand that Dave Mcrae. It's like, what? Do you think it doesn't bother me? Folks, what? It doesn't bother me. It's okay. It's all right. It's fine. It's cool. You can do that. It's fine. I don't lose. I mean, listen. I'm just waiting for somebody to charge me rent. Like I still haven't been charged rent. I mean, the amount of, maybe it's not a lot of people. Maybe it's just one person, but if you're going to think about me, if you're going to give me some love, at least charge me rent, man. Fuck, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Let me see here. Evil Alex says, kind of reminds me of the Michael. Whoops. Hang on. I lost the chat room. Hang on. Kind of reminds me of the Michael Keaton film White Noise when you said psychological drama about ghosts. If you ever saw that underrated 2000s horror. So I have seen White Noise. Look, it's no secret. I haven't, this is out there. Obviously it's inspired by true events from my second year of college. And it deals with the paranormal, and an abandoned, farmhouse from, it's an old farmhouse from 100 years, over that. And that in and of itself, like I've often said, when you say abandoned farmhouse, college kids, paranormal, like just that in and of itself, there's probably a dozen films where you could probably imagine that kind of movie, right? But that's why I say, well, it's not just that. Like that's not, there's more to it than that. Like I'd love to tell you everything, but I can't, right? Why would I do that? But it's deeper than that. And so that's why it's a bit of a different spin on that kind of what otherwise might be seen as a cliche sort of trope. It's a bit of a different spin on it. And so there's a lot more to it than just that. But I can't tell you a lot more stuff because then it kind of ruins it. You know what I mean? Is it like White Noise? Not really. Listen, it's paranormal. And so there's always going to be some, parallels with some other films because of the subject, right? But I wouldn't necessarily say that it's like White Noise. But White Noise is one of the, it's got more of a deeper thing to it, right? There's a bit of a mystery there. But it's not quite like White Noise. No, I would not have, I've never thought of the movie White Noise when I was writing the film. So no, I would say it's not like White Noise. There's some, obviously there's some parallels, but not, no, I wouldn't compare them. But that's me. Rent-free. I know, it's amazing. It's amazing. That Dave Mcrae, like that Dave Mcrae, he thinks he's the best. He thinks he's amazing. That damn Dave Mcrae. I'm like, fuck, man. Like, it's great. I love it. I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing. I think it's great. The Violator 862 says, yeah, I could really care less about Snow White, whether it's good or bad. It's not really for me. It's for children. Well, yeah, and that's fine. Of course, that's fine. Yeah, exactly. Well, at the very least, or at the very most, it's a family movie, right? Like it's not for you. It's not for me. I mean, I'm not going to go down to the theater and one for Snow White, please. I mean, why am I now? I might have to do that if I was I would have to do that if I was a reviewer, but I'm not a movie reviewer, so I'm not going to go down and do that. It's not for me. If I wanted to watch it, I would just wait till it came to streaming. If I wanted to check it out and see what, it was like. All right. So I think I've gone a while here. I've gone nearly 2 hours. So I think I've got all the super chats and the member chats, I believe. Dad says not into paranormal films, but I'll be checking out and rooting for Dave's film. Well, thank you. Yeah. So I think I'll just say this. It's not, when you think of paranormal films, right? This is different. This is, I mean, it deals with it, obviously, but there's a lot more to it than that. It is, it's elevated, meaning that it's more cerebral. And it's got a lot of meat there. It's not a cliched, I don't have the dumb jock and the ditz and the girl with the big boobs and, there's no blood and gore and there's no crazy there's no demons, it's not about demons, it's not, it's, I think it's scary and it's, yeah, of course. But it's, it's just, and please don't misunderstand me either. I'm not saying that it's like this deep, Shawshank Redemption level. This is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that within the confines of its genre, it's a little more, you know what? Instead of saying this off the cuff, I will think of a movie or a good reference. So the next time I'm asked about it, I can say it's a little more this than that. You know what I mean? Without, giving it away. But I don't want to say it off the cuff because I'm live and I don't want to regret saying it. So, but yeah. All right. So I think I do have all the super chats and the member chats as far as I know. I believe I do. Folks, that is going to do it for me here on this episode of Mcrae Live. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to the member chats. Thank you to the super chats. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts on anything I had to say here today. But specifically, of course, Linda Cardellini, being cast as Pamela Voorhees in the Peacock Friday the 13th streaming series Crystal Lake. Let me know your thoughts on it. Let me know, are you excited about it? Are you not excited about it? Jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts. I would really like to know. That's going to do it for me here on this episode of Mcrae Live. I will be back very soon, probably maybe even Friday or Saturday. I don't know. I'll be back very soon. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. If you're not following me on social media, I don't know why. There it is, all right there. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, follow me there. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. That'll do it for me. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you soon. Alrighty. Cheers.